This is Border Czar Tom Homan.
We're enforcing the law, and bottom line is, once again, he proves every day when he makes these statements that, it's just idiocy. I mean, for God's sakes, ICE is out there enforcing the law. We're taking really bad guys off the street, and the whole piñata thing, that is a good example of the weakness and the cowardice of the left. Bottom line is ICE is protecting their communities.
The watchdog says people who truly need SNAP will benefit from a new announcement. Chris Woodward explains.
Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins recently stated that people on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, will need to reapply. The U.S. Department of Agriculture oversees SNAP, and the stated reasons for people needing to reapply is to cut out waste, fraud, and abuse. The Foundation for Government Accountability has for years called on agencies and legislators to reform SNAP and other programs. Tim Puglisi, Associate Fellow at FGA, says that fraud has been a major problem.
Just about half of the states are sharing data with the federal government, and they audited that food stamp enrollment data and found nearly 200,000 deceased men and women on the food stamp rolls and about 500,000 people receiving more than one SNAP payment or food stamp payment with a single Social Security number.
Reform efforts are not new. President Bill Clinton, for example, signed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act in 1996. The GOP-backed measure imposed work requirements and time limits on welfare benefits and gave states flexibility in how they administered assistance to low-income families. Since then, Puglisi said federal and state legislators have used loopholes to waive things to allow more people to enroll. That, he said, should not have happened for a program that is very important to seniors, pregnant women, and low-income children who rely on this to have food on the table every day. I'm Chris Woodward.
More news online at afn.net. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The radical left will stop at nothing to find a way to end life in the womb. They're now using the mail to ship abortion pills straight into homes across America, even in states where abortion is illegal. It's not health care, and it must be stopped. You can take action today. When you support AFA Action, you'll help us hold Big Pharma accountable and defend life. As our thanks, we'll send you the Christian Handbook for Civic Engagement. Visit afaaction.net to give your urgent gift today.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today is Wednesday, November the 19th, 2025, and we thank you for listening to AFR. As the announcer said, my name is Tim Wildmon, and I have three fellows here in studio.
I thought it was going to be three of your better 10 halves, three of your better thirds.
Well, that yet remains to be seen. It depends on what you say and how you perform today. You will be graded at the end of this show. Okay. Wesley Wildmon. Good morning, Wesley.
Good morning. Looking forward to it.
Tony Battagliano. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
And Fred Jackson.
Good morning to you.
Fred, you and I are the elder statesmen here.
Yes. Yes.
You're even more elder than me. Huh?
The senior.
The senior. You're today's issues emeritus.
So we're going to have the energy. You're going to have the wisdom.
That's right.
Something like that. Yeah. Hope it all blends together. Yeah. Make a good show.
Remains to be seen.
Yeah, a lot remains to be seen. All right.
One thing we know for sure, though, we have a guest from Operation Christmas Child at the 10:30 mark, second half of the hour.
Izabella McMillon will be on with us. She is a recipient.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what country she grew up in, but we always like to share those stories about people who, as children, get those boxes, Tony, and then their lives are changed.
Yeah, incredible stories.
Yeah. So Operation Christmas Child, a lot of our listeners have been participating in that, are participating in that. I'm not sure when when the deadline is for, for finishing that up and getting it into the distribution centers?
I do. It's November 24th.
Yep. National Collection Week.
That's right. November 24th is the final day to get that in, go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. SamaritansPurse.org/OCC. There you'll find all the information. You'll find the 5,000 drop box locations. Most of them are local churches, in addition to the information that we'll go over at 10:30 with our guests.
Absolutely. We look forward to having Izabella on as she shares her personal story. So that's coming up at the bottom of the hour. All right, Fred, what's on tap here?
Well,
today?
while most of us were doing other things last night,
Okay.
at the U.S. Senate, they gave very quick approval to a bill which is aimed at releasing the so-called Epstein files. Earlier in the day, the House overwhelmingly approved that, with some concerns raised by House Speaker Mike Johnson as to information that's in some of these files that might reveal, for instance, victims of Epstein who did not want their names released. Also,
Don't blame them.
yes,
Yeah.
names of whistleblowers that helped in the investigation, names of people who were used in the investigation that had nothing to do with Epstein, but they didn't want their names published. So House Speaker Johnson, with those concerns, said basically, but he went ahead and voted for their release because he said, right now with the political climate that we're in, if you vote against releasing them, you're suspected of trying to hide something. So House approved it yesterday, Senate last night, and now goes to the president for his signature. Given what he has said in recent days, he will sign off on that, and then it goes to the Justice Department. Now, what President Trump has been saying, hey, listen, I've got nothing to hide here. Go ahead. But he said Democrats, they have a lot to hide.
Nothing puts President Trump in a better mood than you bring up Jeffrey Epstein. His face just starts to glow, doesn't it?
Yes.
All right, Tony. What lay this all out for us as best you can. What's going on here?
Well, I guess my question I would have, and I would pose to everybody, what brought about the sudden 180 that Trump had, where he wants to release it now? Fred, is there any indication as to why all of us, because he was, it appeared to me, vehemently opposed to this, or at least framing it in the sense of this is a distraction from all of our accomplishments, and what do you think brought about this 180?
To put it bluntly, I think Trump, and he kind of alluded to this yesterday when he had a news conference with the Saudi prince, because the reporters brought up the question of the Epstein files. Basically, it is to the point where I think President Trump says he just wants people to shut up about this.
Okay.
All right. He said, so go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
He believes the Democrats are going to be put in a bad light. Mike Johnson yesterday in his news conference made the point that has been made before.
Right.
The Epstein files were in the clutches of the Democrats during the 4 years of Joe Biden. If they think there is something terrible in there about Republicans and Donald Trump, why didn't they release it then? What basically Donald Trump believes, and what a lot of conservatives believe, is that the Democrats made another push for this in recent days to distract people away from the total chaos that's going on inside the Democratic Party, as far as the so-called far leftists want to take over the party. Chuck Schumer's in deep trouble in the Senate. He may lose his primary there. So President Trump is saying, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, House, pass it. Go ahead, Senate, pass it. I'll sign this thing. We'll turn it over to the Justice Department, which can still redact some of the information that's in there. But Trump wants just to get this off the hot burner, get it out there so people can stop talking about it.
It does look like a political tennis match back and forth, though. That leads me to believe that, and we'll see once it's released, but it leads me to believe that there's not enough there, or nothing there to the significance of which some people may be hoping or expecting. Otherwise, but when, as has been pointed out, when the Biden administration otherwise would have released it, it had damage on any of the Republicans or Trump or anybody.
100%.
100%. And then also at the same time, if day one when Trump was sworn in, his team would have released it then if it had any damage on the Democrats or anybody on the other side. So I think it's just being used for a political back and forth. However, I do think there's a legit concern that we all would have about their making sure that those that need to be redacted, the names are there. And I think the process of going through all that only to release nothing does frustrate someone like President Trump, who knows pretty much, I would assume, knows that that's what's about to happen.
Yep.
So.
Well, okay, Jeffrey Epstein, but Tony, just get to more elementary here, and you guys can comment on this because I want to move on. So the Jeffrey Epstein, as a review, was a New York billionaire, right? Multimillionaire, socialite, power broker, around town guy. Okay, he hung out with all the rich and famous people in New York City, and in Florida, South Florida. A jet setter, and then he was exposed because he was learned to be exploiting underage girls, right? It's for sexual purposes, and his associate got in trouble. She's in jail now. His top lieutenant, and then he got sent to prison too. He hung himself, I guess. And then there was suspicion about whether he was knocked off in prison and didn't hang himself. Yeah. I mean, this thing built into like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, and there were some
with two versions.
And depending on who you asked too, there were some either ironic instances or very suspicious instances.
But here's the thing that I get, because you would say, well, why do people care about this? Is because there are a lot of people who have suspicions that Jeffrey Epstein was part of perhaps a shadow government type situation, right?
Yeah, there's more than
meets the eye,
more than a little evidence, alluding to his connections to various intelligence agencies and powerful people. Here's my view of, and I kind of agree with Wesley. They're going to release the files, and you're going to get a sheet of paper, and it's going to be mostly black, with redactions in there, with a few words here and there, and you can try and make heads or tails of whatever you want to. I agree with redacting names of victims, right, and whistleblowers, 100%. But
sure.
I'm sorry, everybody else, if you're buzzing in the same social circles,
right?
I'm sorry,
your name's in there. You should have been buzzing with him.
1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Yeah. So you shouldn't have been. I'm guessing most people who were in those social circles knew what kind of person Epstein was. So just don't be around him.
Right.
Even if your name, I get it, your name shows up, you had nothing to do with any of the criminal or horrible, wicked behavior. I'm sorry.
It appears to me, as far as President Trump goes, he was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that's no secret.
Yeah.
But he wasn't best buds. Okay, they're not getting on planes with each other. Trump didn't go to this island down in the Caribbean, and in fact, Trump cut it off once, according to him, and that's what the evidence is. When Jeffrey Epstein got kicked out of Mar-a-Lago, and the rumors were circling that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with underage girls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Bill Clinton, good night. He was best friends forever.
His name never gets brought up in the media, and his connections to Epstein. I mean, there are photos of him, in very precarious situations that more than allude to that.
That was probably Jeffrey Epstein's heyday, back in the 90s and 2000s and so forth like that. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. So finally, all this will be out in the open, and for better or for worse, it'll be behind us, I guess, and so we can stop talking about it. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Maybe we're the Today's Issues files. Maybe we should be called that. It's more intriguing. Right?
Redact my name.
Right, we're going to redact Tony's name from the Today's Issues files to protect his innocence. All right, what's your next story, Fred?
Well, we have been reporting over the last couple of days that the efforts by ICE to arrest and deport illegal aliens, The focus since Sunday has been in North Carolina, starting with Charlotte and then moving on to Raleigh. In the first day, about 130 people were arrested in the city of Charlotte alone. Now, both those North Carolina cities, Charlotte and Raleigh, have Democrat mayors who apparently aren't very happy with all that's going on. But Tom Homan, I think most people have seen him interviewed many times on this. He is the border czar. He says ICE, despite what the Democrats are saying, is being very successful in these efforts to get the bad guys out of this country. Cut 6.
We're enforcing the law, and bottom line is, once again, he proves every day when he makes these statements that, it's just idiocy. ICE is out there enforcing the law. We're taking really bad guys off the street, and the whole pinata thing, I mean, that is a good example of the weakness and the cowardice of the left. Bottom line is ICE is protecting their communities, and all these people, where were they when President Obama was president and ICE removed 409,000 people was a record at the time? Where were they? Where were they when 500,000 children were smuggled in this country and they lost track of 300,000 of them? You know what President Trump has done? I was with HHS today, Jesse. We already found over 30,000 of these kids. Like 3 weeks ago, we're at 24,000. Now we're over 30,000. And we're going to keep working until we find every one of these kids.
Yeah, what he's talking about is kids that, remember those pictures during the Biden years, and Fox was pretty well the only one reporting on this, of little kids being thrown over the border wall by these coyotes. Remember that? Yeah. All these scenes? There's countless numbers, and Home is referring to that, countless numbers of these little precious kids that are now being trafficked around this country. And that's one of the missions of ICE. By the way, this takes us to a very disturbing story. There is a montage, I'm going to play it for you, of Democrats that are out there now telling military personnel not to obey orders from their commanders to be part of this support effort with ICE, going into these cities, arresting bad guys. It's very disturbing. Cut number 7.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military,
but that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army, or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution, and who we are as Americans. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Oh, man, I'm about to stand up and just start saluting.
I am
moved.
shocked.
God bless America.
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like a January 6th rally to me. Sounds like an insurrection.
That's a good one.
Well, that's good because they're calling on the armed services personnel to disobey the law. I mean, to rebel against their leaders, authorities. Yeah. Okay, just to set this up, what you just heard, in case you didn't know, were Democrat congressmen, and they are telling servicemen and women, don't participate with ICE, basically. Don't help out in the deportation of arrest and deportation of illegal immigrants into America. Isn't that what it's about?
Yeah, but that's right. But the deceptiveness and the worst part about it is they're saying that they're doing it in the name of following the Constitution by not following orders by ICE. You see the problem there? But I mean, that's really wicked.
Well, if the federal government had been doing one of its primary constitutional duties in protecting our borders to begin with,
we wouldn't
even have these people here.
No, I blame all this on Joe Biden,
100%,
and Kamala Harris and their administration, because they're the ones who let 5 to 10 million people into our country just completely unvetted.
Mm-hmm.
Just open it's been well documented. We know what happened there. Well documented about the undocumented.
Yeah.
Like that. So it's just, that's the reason Trump found himself having to clean up. He's having to clean up Biden's mess because we read every day about illegal immigrants here committing acts of violence and crime and murder in some cases. And, you know, so President Trump, he got elected on, we're going to have the largest deportation effort in the history of our country.
Mm-hmm.
And the American people, a majority of them said, we're with you on that.
And to stop the and to stop the bleed
shut the border down. Shut the border down.
Yep.
I would just say this too. I didn't hear in that montage we just played a specific law that was being broken.
Oh, no.
Mm-mm.
In other words, they said you don't have to participate, you servicemen and women, if you're told to do an illegal order.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. That's what
But
so
they didn't say what the illegal order
right,
was.
Yes. Exactly.
Did y'all notice that?
No, they're implying deporting people is illegal. What
Right.
they're implying.
Right, exactly.
But then they hide behind, and this is what causes a lot of frustration because it deceives people and then they follow up by because that's your constitutional. No, the Constitution is to follow the law.
Well, why don't they say this? You know, we're appealing to everybody here in America who's here in our country unconstitutionally,
yes,
to follow the Constitution and go back to your home country and then re-enter legally.
Yeah.
So we're concerned about the Constitution.
Right.
Instead of appealing to the millions of people who are here illegally to follow the Constitution, they want to tell our
how many of them
armed services people that they need to follow the Constitution by not helping out with deportation.
Yeah.
What now?
The question was how many of those Democrats were in that video?
I think there's at least a dozen or more.
Yeah.
I understand that Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona was amongst that, which I'm shocked.
Senator,
yes.
he's a more moderate. If you're going to, that's not saying a lot in the Democrat Party, but maybe it is saying a lot because of these far lefties.
That video is like asking the military if an invading army were to cross our border, and be inside the United States. It's like the equivalent of telling our armed forces, now look, you're not supposed to go anywhere into these cities and get these guys. They've already crossed the border. Just leave them here. Let them occupy wherever they want to occupy. To me, that's what I'm hearing whenever I hear that, because we've had the equivalent of an invading army led into our country during the last administration. I mean, the numbers probably are greater than an invading army. And so to discourage members of the armed forces in supporting, they're not even doing it themselves. They're just really supporting ICE in their efforts.
And again, I noticed they didn't cite any law that's being broken. Let me ask you guys this related to this issue. And our listeners might think, well, duh, Tim, you don't know the answer to that? I do know the answer to this, at least I think I do, but still, it confounds the brain to think that one of our major political parties would, you talk about lawlessness, they're talking about following the law, those people that you just heard, those Democrat congressmen. Let me ask you this question. Why do you think they're doing that? Why do you think that the Democrat Party wants to go to extraordinary lengths to say they are protecting people who have come to the U.S. illegally?
Here's another question here that I was thinking about when we were talking.
I had a good question, though, didn't I?
You did have a good question. I don't have a good answer. I mean, there's no good answer to that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
I can answer my own question.
Okay, go for it.
And then you have a question?
I do got a question.
So to answer my own question, you want me to answer my own question, Fred?
I think you should.
Okay, because they want an invasion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Democrat Party wants people to come here illegally because their hopes are that they can make them legal citizens, voting citizens, and they'll be loyal to the Democrat Party in high percentages.
Yep.
So, and that will be the death of the Republican Party as we know it.
Yep.
That's why the Democrats don't want anybody deported. They don't want arrest. They don't even care about gang members. They don't even commend the Trump administration for arresting gang members
Right.
who are selling drugs and human trafficking. You never hear them even
Taking
condemn
over cities.
Yeah, you never hear even condemn that. Why, you ask? Why? Because they don't care.
Right.
One of our major political parties, the Democrat Party, they want illegal immigration to be. They don't want any enforcement. Tony, did I answer my own question?
You did. Yeah.
Okay.
To me, it boils down to the ballot box for the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So you keep them here.
Right.
The longer they stay here, the better your chances of having mass amnesty, eventually getting
pathway to citizenship.
Yeah,
you're going to hear that
pathway to
more.
citizenship, and then they're voting Democrat for the next.
And they're also easy converts to socialism.
Yeah, because they're overwhelmed.
A lot of socialist countries.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, I'm going to draw you I'm going to speak of an equivalency here in terms of loyalty to a party, to a particular party. In the 60s, Lyndon Johnson had the Great Society. He was the president of the United States at the time, and introduced this Great Society program, which was massive welfare. All right. So he started giving massive welfare, particularly to African Americans, in the name of making up for the social injustices that they had been recipients of in the history of our country, which there's no doubt that's true. Okay. But his idea was, let's start giving money to African Americans, and with nothing asked in return. So you get welfare dependency, and you get generational welfare dependency. And we all know what's happened in the black community with the babies born out of wedlock. The reason for that was they got checks for the more babies they had out of wedlock. Well, that created an incentive for dependency. And then we see that 85 to 90% of African Americans vote Democrat to even today because of what happened in the 60s. Yeah. We'll be back momentarily.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
A man in the Old West was being tried for stealing a horse. You need to remember now that stealing a horse in the Old West was a very grave and serious offense. A person could be hung if found guilty of such a deed. It so happened that the man was accused of stealing a horse from another man in that town whom no one liked. The man whose horse had been stolen had always made it a point to get the best of any person with whom he had any dealings. He had never tried to do anything good for anyone other than himself. Consequently, the man whose horse had been stolen didn't have a single friend in the entire community. Well, the case was tried and presented to the jury. The evidence against the accused man was pretty strong. After about 30 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned to the court chambers. "Gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?" the judge asked. The chairman of the jury stood up. "Yes, we have, Your Honor," he replied. "What is your verdict?" inquired the judge. There were a few moments of silence, and then the chairman spoke. "We find the defendant not guilty if he will return the horse." Well, after the judge had silenced the laughter in the courtroom, he admonished the jury. "I cannot accept that verdict. You will have to retire until you reach another verdict," said the judge. So the jury went back into their room to deliberate toward another verdict. Now, no member of the jury had any particular liking for the man whose horse had been stolen. At one time or another, he had gotten the best of each of them. About an hour passed before the jury could reach another verdict. They re-entered the courtroom. They took their place in the jury box, and the courtroom grew silent. "Gentlemen of the jury," began the judge, "have you reached a verdict?" Well, the chairman of the jury stood up. "Yes, we have, Your Honor," he replied. "What is your verdict?" asked the judge. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone eagerly awaited the verdict. The chairman read the decision by the 12 good men tried and true. "We find the defendant not guilty, and he can keep the horse." The courtroom burst into laughter. Well, I guess the moral of the story is that it pays to be interested in people other than yourself. If you spend your life trying to take advantage of others, never caring about them in any way except what you can get from them or what they can do for you, you will end up a loser like the man who lost his horse. If you desire a friend, then you had better be a friend. If you desire for other people to help you, then you had better help other people. If you desire justice at the hands of others, then you had better practice justice toward them. Regardless of what you may think, the old biblical admonition is true. We do reap what we sow.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
For he has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us into the kingdom of the Son he loves. Colossians 1:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. I'm Tim with Wesley and Tony and Fred, and we thank you for listening to AFR. We were talking, we're going to wrap this topic up here, but why is it that the Democrat Party is against the crackdown on illegal immigration when Biden let 5 to 10 million people, who knows, into the country? That's, that story's well told. Illegally. He just let them pour into our country, and now Trump's got this mess he's got to deal with. If you want to deal with it. If you don't, let's just do away with borders and say, y'all come, world. We'll take care of you. But President Trump ran on the law and order and against illegal immigration and promised to crack down on it. And his administration is doing so. Tom Homan, one of the leaders in this.
We got some numbers to prove that.
We got some numbers to prove that, but so he is only following through with his campaign promise. Let me just say this too, and I've said this before. Never in the history of the world has a video of law enforcement, SWAT teams, drug enforcement people, whatever. Never has that looked good on TV, okay, or a video. Tell me when that's looked good.
I can visualize a comedy skit now, though, where they come in. Would you?
Yes, every time you watch one of these videos, there's a part of you that goes, "Oh, do you have to do that? do the police have to really put
handcuffs on
put handcuffs on the guy like that on the ground? I mean, can't they just
That's
ask
uncomfortable.
Yes, just ask him to please get in the car and come with them. No, the police, so they always look like they're brutes and they're forceful and everything like that. So that's never going to look good. But that's the way they have to, and they have to be, especially they're finding these drug related criminals who are, and gang members and such. They have to be considered too that this person they're going to confront in the street or at the store or wherever may themselves be armed.
Yeah. The only video you ever see of it is when they're at their kid's birthday party.
Right.
That's the video they're going to show.
They arrest somebody. See, these ICE agents went in during a kid's birthday party and arrested their mom.
Yeah.
That's what they show. They don't tell you any of the context or anything like that. So, anyway, Westy, give those numbers you were about to give, and then we'll go to our guests.
Sure. Real quick, numbers, Homeland Security, as of October 27th, so the beginning of November here of 2025, there's been nearly 2 million illegal aliens, immigrants who have been deported from the United States in less than a year of Trump's first term. 1.6 of these have deported themselves, and y'all know this. We gave them money and helped them get back. Deported themselves, and then almost over 500,000. We meaning ICE and Trump and his team have done the video of the handcuffing and deporting themselves, or deporting through ICE. So Trump is on pace to legally remove over 600,000 himself, and then of course 1.6. This is just in his first 12 months. honestly, and we're not even at the 12-month mark yet.
And shut down the border.
And I honestly, first of all, I knew he was passionate about this. I knew that he was going to do his part, but I didn't think he would be able. I think this is an over-accomplishment, if that's the right word, or this is a surprise to even those on the conservative side that he's been able to do this in the first year. And he's not letting up. There's no sign, like with a lot of the things he did for the first 3 to 6 months, you start seeing things kind of wean off and it kind of level out. It seems like on this issue, this is something that whoever comes in behind him in 2028 and runs for president on the Republican ticket will be able to use this as a as an accomplishment. Yeah.
One aside that people need to be aware of is that there are these videos out there that are being generated by AI, which are fake, but they look real. And those who are against deportation and arrest of people here who are here illegally, they are putting these AI-generated fake videos out, which are going viral, which depict ICE in the very worst possible way you could depict it. I just wanted people to be aware of these. If you come across a video, it may not even be real. Okay, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. All right, Wesley, who are we talking to next, and what about?
Our guest is Izabella McMillon. She is with Operation Christmas Child, and we have her on because we want to hear her story. Izabella, are you with us?
I sure am. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am. And where are you from?
I am originally from Romania.
Well, wonderful. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up, which is in Romania, obviously, and where you attended church, and a little bit about your story, how you got connected with Operation Christmas Child.
Yes, I grew up in communism during Romania's communism. When I was born, it was already communism, and so every aspect of our lives was controlled by the government. So much of what you have been talking about, just as I was listening to you today, and there was nothing good about that. Literally, my parents were told by the government where they could live, where they could work, where we could go to school, what grocery store we could shop at. But the biggest thing the government was trying to control is to make sure that God's name was not known in our country. So saying the name of God out loud or owning a Bible, those things could cost our lives. So that was the environment that we grew up in. But I'm so grateful that the God that you and I serve is a God who tells us so beautifully in John 1:5 that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. And there's no government, there's no many rules anyone can ever put in place that will stop the power of the gospel and what can do in a life. And that is exactly what he did in my life.
Amen. Well, hey, thank you for sharing that. Well, okay. That's a little bit about your testimony. At what point, how old were you, and at what point did you come across a shoebox, Operation Christmas Child shoebox? The reason I'm asking is because how was it that the country did allow that to take place while obviously suppressing every other portion of religion?
Well, actually, it happened right after the revolution in Romania. So communism fell. Nobody really knew what that meant. Nobody really understood what freedom really meant for us, and it took our country quite a few years to figure that out. But for me, right before I got there, if you don't mind, I just back up just a little bit, how God opened the door to who he is for me in the communist regime. When I was 7 years old, my brother and I, we found by accident a hidden Bible in the floorboard of our little apartment the government assigned us to. And that is how we were exposed to God's word.
Oh, wow.
And then we started going to a little underground church when I was 11 years old. And before the revolution happened, I was going to this little underground church for 2 years. And it was at this little place where the pastor took me and my brother under his wing after we realized that he was reading to us from the same book that was hiding in the floorboard of our little government-owned apartment. And that is when he started speaking truth into our lives, and we started slowly understanding that the Bible is not just a storybook, but there's so much more to it. And this pastor taught me how to pray, because I went to him one day when I was 13, And I asked him if he could teach me because he could not pray with us at this underground church to protect us and to protect himself. And also, he took great risks to allow this little gathering for children to read from the Bible, but it was under the pretense of story time. And so I went to him and I said, I am reading about prayer. I see that it's powerful through this book we have been reading, but can you teach me how to pray? And he asked me why I wanted to learn how to pray, and I told him because it's cold outside and I don't like it. Isn't that obvious? The only way that mom and dad would let us go outside and play in the cold, dark winters in Romania. We didn't have electricity or street lights, so it was literally pitch dark after 5:30. But if it snowed outside, the mom and dad would let us go outside and play past dark. And so for us, snow was like saving grace. And I asked him to teach me how to pray so I can pray for snow. That was my 13-year-old prayer. And my pastor taught me how to pray. And he told me to trust God that he always answers prayer. So I started praying for snow, and he did not answer that prayer for a long 3 months. And it was during that time frame that the revolution actually did happen in Romania. And right after the revolution happened, we saw people running on the streets. And for us, that meant one thing. There was something at the grocery store. So we got excited and we started running. And we end up in the center of our little town. It wasn't the grocery store where things were happening, but these 3 little trucks pulled in that were filled with beautiful, colorfully wrapped shoeboxes. Never seen anything like that. It was like a splash of color in our black and white world. And they started giving these little colorful boxes to all the kids who were there. And this sweet lady comes up to me with a colorful shoebox. And she tells me it's for me, and I don't have to do anything for it. No strings attached, which was unheard of in our country and the way that we were living. And so I was given a gift freely for nothing expected in return. And then this lady asked me if there was anything that she could pray with me for. And I looked at her and I said, yes, please, if you would pray with me for snow, that would be great. And that is exactly what she did. And she prayed with me right there and then for snow and left me with this colorful little treasure in my hands. And as I opened up my shoebox, God answered my prayer in such an unexpected way. There were so many extremely fun and colorful things in my shoebox, but one thing that stood out the most in the corner of my box was this silver and blue little simple snow globe filled with snow inside of it when you shook it. And I could not believe that God would answer after this lady just prayed with me. Within 2 minutes, his answer was in my hands. My pastor always said, God always answers prayers, but sometimes his answers look differently than what we imagine.
That's the voice that you're listening to is Izabella McMillon. She's one of the recipients years ago of Operation Christmas Child, receiving the Christmas box that we support here at AFA, and it's been done all across the country for many years. When you were 13 years old and when you received your box, I always like to ask, when talking to those that have received a box, what was your favorite thing, or what's the most memorable thing when you first opened your box that stood out to you?
Well, for me, it definitely was that snow globe that brought a lasting impact. Even though snow globes are no longer allowed to be packed in shoeboxes, but God can use ordinary things to do something extraordinary in our lives. And can I also tell you that I was the coolest kid at school for months to come because I had school supplies like no one else had. I had colored markers and I had crayons. Who knew those existed? I didn't. And I showed up with my crayons at school, and I had this really cool coloring book and colored pencils that came with a pencil sharpener. We never had pencil sharpeners before. So for me, those simple school supplies meant so much. But the snow globe, that changed the trajectory of my faith walk with the Lord.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Would you tell our audience that's listening right now where people can find out where to drop their shoe boxes, where the list of information on what to put in a shoebox, and where they could build a shoebox online?
Absolutely. We are in the middle of National Collection Week across the country. We are praying that God will bring in 12.6 million shoeboxes this week. Our drop-off locations across the country, we partnered with nearly 5,000 churches that have their doors open right now. If you go to SamaritansPurse.org/OCC, you can just simply type in your zip code and find the closest drop-off location to you. You can drop off your packed shoeboxes there with school supplies, hygiene items, toys. Personalize your boxes, pray over them, and trust that God will use you as a shoebox packer in a powerful way to change lives around the world.
Amen.
Amen.
That's a wonderful testimony and story, and we completely and totally obviously support Operation Christmas Child and the shoebox. What a great, you ever had that idea? What a great idea. So simple and yet has such an impact worldwide. Izabella, thank you for being on with us. And the only thing, do you still pray for snow, or or do you get past that?
Well, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina now, and believe it or not, last Monday we had beautiful snow falling from the sky. It was absolutely beautiful. I no longer pray for it because now I do not have to go outside and play past 5:30. I can do whatever I want. I have electricity.
Amen. Well, there you go. Thanks, Izabella. Take care. We appreciate you being on with us.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you.
Okay. Izabella McMillon joining us there from, she say Charlotte?
Yep.
Yeah.
Charlotte had snow last week?
I didn't hear that.
I didn't know that either.
Doesn't really for Fred. It just snow is just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether anybody else gets it or not.
That's a horror story that you're getting snow in early November.
That's true. That's right.
Listen, I like one snow a year. In January, about the middle of January, I can go for 2 to 4 inches.
Yeah.
Let the kids play and wander around. It looks so pretty, and after that,
then it melts the next day and it's gone.
I'm ready for spring.
Yeah.
I want to see some green grass.
Yeah.
Some warm weather.
True. Yeah.
So the idea of quote praying for snow is just not in my theology. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying.
But
what struck out to me is, and I wish people like Izabella could have an even wider, which we have a big audience, but to be able to tell her story to maybe the people of New York City as to like what actual communism looks like may open some eyes for people to understand where it eventually leads to.
Yeah, she grew up in the old Soviet Union.
Right.
I don't know what her age is. I've been told you shouldn't ask a lady her age, so I didn't. But I'm guessing she's not too far from me. Mm-hmm. I'm 62, so I guess she's probably in her 50s. If she's old enough to have been a teenager during the, and when she's talking about a revolution right there, she's talking about a revolution against communism.
That's right. Yeah. Right.
That her country went through. Remember when President Reagan was in office, and then Gorbachev, the Soviet Union, fell. And tear down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev, and the Berlin Wall fell, and communism fell. And communism, as in the Soviet Union, not communism in China, is still alive and well, but the communism in the Soviet Union fell apart. It couldn't. It wasn't sustainable as a economic program, I guess you could say. So, in all those countries, these satellite countries from Russia, Mother Russia, including Romania, which were dominated by the Russians and the Soviets and the Communist Party, that fell, and all these countries began to revert back to being autonomous. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's what she was talking about. That was the revolution. So, she is from Romania. You're listening to, go ahead, Fred.
Well, I was just going to say it'd be interesting to have a conversation with Izabella about what she thinks about what's going on in this country politically right now.
Right.
What she thinks of Mamdani in New York.
Yeah.
Promising, quote, air quotes, free stuff.
Yeah.
Free transportation. State-run grocery stores. All of these things that...
You're against state-run grocery stores?
Sure am.
You're against people eating? Fred.
Yeah,
You want us to unpack this for you, Dad? You know the answer.
Well, but to your point, Fred, that's where a lot of what Mom Donnie is advocating for eventually leads to. Is you're told what grocery store you can go to.
Yes.
How much you can buy.
Yeah.
I mean, those type of controls have to be put in place whenever you take that step into communism.
And I tell you what, he talks about housing also, government-run housing.
Oh, yeah.
That always, I've said it before, you know, the thing with socialists, they come to you with an open palm. Look what I'm going to give you.
Yep.
But then it turns into a fist.
Yep.
Because then they tell you what you're going to get. And they're going to tell you where you're going to live and what to expect from the government.
What doctor to go to, and when you can see him.
Exactly.
But here's what they're going to say. But it's all provided.
Yeah.
Free of cost by the government.
But it sets you back decades. My previous place of employment, I went to Serbia a couple of times for business trips, and it's incredible to walk around and still see most of their architecture. The city I was in was still cement blocks.
Yep.
More modernized, obviously, but their transportation system was straight from the 1970s. Their airplanes were still from the 90s. It sets you back decades.
Yeah, absolutely. You're listening to Serbia. That's Eastern Europe too, right?
It is.
So not too far from Romania, probably, where she's talking about. She grew up, Izabella. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. I'm Tim with Wesley and Tony and Fred, and we appreciate you listening to AFR. If you want to send us an email, the address is comments@afr.net, comments@afr.net. If you want to listen to this show in podcast form, we have 150,000 downloads a month that people who listen to this show via the podcast. That means if you miss our live show, you can listen on demand anytime. All you got to do is go to afr.net. afr.net, click on the banner that says the podcast, and click on the Today's Issues banner, and you can check us out there. All right, Fred, what is our next story?
I don't know if you remember. You probably have seen some old films of what it used to be like when you flew in airplanes in this country. Some of the old, the black and white films showed nicely dressed men and women getting on the airplanes. I'm old enough to remember Pan American Airlines.
Pan Am. And how the, I used to call them stewardess. I know they're called flight attendants now. How they used to dress, the pillbox hats, and they were just highly professional.
Now, you do see that on like Emirates Airlines now. You see those pictures. Today, it's a little bit different. If you've been to an airport lately, you might have been at a gate where people are showing up looking like they just fell out of bed, got out of bed, got to the airport, some of them in pajamas, wearing their slippers. You probably have seen, I haven't experienced this on an airplane, but I've seen videos of violence aboard airplanes. People starting fights over the most stupid things. Like, I'm sitting next to someone, I don't like the hat you're wearing. There was a video out there about a guy wearing a MAGA hat, and this person went nuts. Planes having to be diverted because there's violence on airplanes. Well, our Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, not that he doesn't have enough on his plate right now with everything that's going on because of the shutdown of the government, but he was asked this morning about civility in air travel. Is it possible to bring it back? Cut number 8.
So I've asked people for feedback. What happens at the gate? And again, are people nice to the gate agents? What happens with some of the brawls we've seen at baggage claim? People behaving well on the airplane. Be nice. Say please. Say thank you. Bringing civility back, I think, enhances the travel experience for everybody. And so sometimes you just have to ask people, hey, let's maybe go back to an era where we didn't wear our pajamas to the airport. We actually might dress up a little bit. And if someone needs help putting their luggage up in the overhead bin, help them out.
Yeah, he's a colonialist. You know what I'm saying? He wants to go back to an era that's bygone where minorities didn't have rights. That's what I got from what he said. Who's with me?
I'm not with you.
Nobody's with me on that interpretation. That's going to be, but that's a lefty interpretation.
Sure.
Of what he just of what he just said. Listen.
I think people are going to get hung up on the pajama.
He's just saying.
That's
what
what people more so than people fighting and getting into fights and fighting TSA in each other.
Being rude
it's
and not
be
helping.
The pajamas.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're gonna get hung up on that.
Well,
he could have gone without the pajama comment.
Well, I think what he's saying is it's related. He's saying our general attitude in flag. I don't know if you could make a connection, but I mean, he's just saying there was a time in our country where we had more public civility.
That's true,
and that includes how our appearance. That we
That's
took
right.
that we as most people took more pride in our appearance. I don't know. I think he's not suggesting some kind of dress code law.
That's right.
For boarding an airplane. He's just making a general observation.
But otherwise, I agree with all that. It would be nice to see.
But you still want to wear your pajamas to the airport. Is that where you draw the line?
I hadn't tried that yet, but
yeah.
But the things he was saying though are very helpful for us to
civility,
heed.
And I think the vast majority of people do follow that. The vast majority of Americans are considerate of others, and they're
help other people.
They're helpful, yeah. But you do got your jerks,
yeah.
And you do got your entitled people and your selfish people out there who maybe we should make them wear pajamas so that we could distinguish them from the rest of us. Huh?
Make it a requirement.
Wear your PJs.
If you're a selfish person, we want to
I think COVID affected that too. I think a lot of people sat around their house in their PJs and then forgot to change clothes when they went back out. To when the restaurants open.
For years.
You notice this?
Yeah, we're going to be looking back years down the road. COVID did a lot of things.
Made a lot of changes.
A lot of changes.
We'll be back in a minute. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
It's been proven again and again and again.
Bert Harper.
The verification of the dates, the verification of the genealogies, it puts spiritual iron in my spiritual blood to know that we can depend upon the Word of God.
Exploring the Word. Weekday afternoons at 3 Central on American Family Radio. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Mexico's president says no thanks to an offer from President Trump. Chris Foster reports.
Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum says she would not allow U.S. military strikes against drug cartels in her country. President Trump saying Monday,
"Would I launch strikes in Mexico to stop drugs? It's okay with me. Whatever we have to do to stop drugs."
President Sheinbaum says she has told him and he's understood there can be collaboration and information sharing, but Mexico does not accept any intervention by a foreign government. Mexican and American diplomats are trying to sort out something that happened Monday. Men came in a boat and put up signs on a Mexican beach close to the border saying the area was restricted Defense Department property. The Pentagon says they were contractors that will coordinate with relevant agencies to avoid future confusion. Chris Foster, Fox News.
It's an almost daily occurrence, a viral video of a brawl on an airplane or in an airport. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says when it comes to travel, especially in the air, we desperately need a return to civility.
So I've asked people for feedback. What happens at the gate? And again, are people nice to the gate agents? What happens with some of the brawls we've seen at baggage claim? People behaving well on the airplane. Be nice, say please, say thank you. Bringing civility back, I think, enhances the travel experience for everybody. And so sometimes you just have to ask people, hey, let's maybe go back to an era where we didn't wear our pajamas to the airport. We actually might dress up a little bit. And if someone needs help putting their luggage up in the overhead bin, help them out.
A federal judge has blocked a Texas law that requires some school districts to display the Ten Commandments.
U.S. District Judge Orlando Garcia has given 14 school districts in Texas until December 1st to remove Ten Commandments displays, and the preliminary injunction says they would be barred from posting new displays. The law, which requires Texas public schools to display the Ten Commandments in every classroom, was signed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott in June. A group of families from different religious backgrounds sued in September, saying the law violates their religious freedom and the separation of church and state. Similar suits have challenged nearly identical laws in other states. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says he is suing 2 of the school districts for refusing to comply with the law. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Artificial intelligence is on the way, and it has the potential to not only disrupt the workforce, but the way we relate to other people. A successful voice actor and author says the only way to preserve relationships is face-to-face. More from Steve Jordahl.
You've heard voice actor Joel Weldon's voice, although you probably don't know his name.
In America, adventures can be both big and small.
With AI on the horizon, Weldon says there's nothing to keep Ford, in this case, from replacing him with AI Joel.
It's not going away. And for me personally, it's a concern as a voice actor because you're realizing they're sampling voices of people like me.
He says we're already seeing the AI shockwaves in certain industries.
You're already seeing all these jobs disappearing. Amazon, 15,000 jobs. UPS, 18,000 jobs. That's just the beginning of the wave, I believe. So something's got to give.
Weldon says so much of life is already two-dimensional, with every face you see buried in a screen of some kind. Some people will get lost in the AI world to the neglect of in-real-life interactions.
It will begin to even assemble emotion in the message, which is really the key to human communication.
He says it's especially important for the church not to get lost in a two-dimensional world. Facebook Live church services, prayer meetings by text, etc.
Nothing is going to replace meeting in person. We've got to really be aware of being intentional about being in person, especially when it comes to the body of Christ and church. You've got to get together face to face.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
The U.S. stock market is rising ahead of a huge couple of tests for Wall Street. NVIDIA climbed as traders made their final moves before Wall Street's most influential stock delivers its latest profit report. Much is riding on it because of worries that AI stock prices may have shot too high. Treasury yields held steady ahead of Thursday's jobs report from the U.S. government. More news available online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Every day, AFA offers biblical insight on issues that others aren't willing to touch in the hopes that you'll become a world changer. That's why we're offering an in-depth worldview training course called Activate. 13 different professors teaching 18 sessions, all available online, including a printed workbook to help you apply what you've learned and 1-year access to AFA streaming content to give you even more resources. Find out more about Activate and sign up today at activate.afa.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildmon, President of the American Family Association.
Battle.
Hey, welcome back to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. We'll be here for another 24 and a half minutes. I'm Tim Wildmon with Wesley Wildmon and Tony Vitagliano. And now joining us also in studio is Steve Paisley Jordahl.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to see you, Tony. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to be here.
Sorry, Tony. Tony's going to be making more and more appearances on this show.
It's not that his dad did anything wrong. Okay.
His dad? No, Ed.
No.
Ed. His dad's. He's out gallivanting at the beach or something.
Yeah,
like
something
that,
like that. Yeah.
So no, Ed took a little break and be back next week, and Tony will be.
That's why he's filling in.
Yeah.
Though. Nobody's done anything wrong.
No. Tony will be here next week too.
Growing the bench.
When we're gallivanting at the beach.
I'll be here.
And you'll be here working, slaving.
That's right.
My word is lately has been yours is gallivanting. Mine's been meandering. I like
meandering. You can gallivant and meander at the same time, though.
Gallivanting has more purpose than meandering.
Yeah.
Right. You gallivant. You're headed somewhere in life. You know. You want to gallivant through life. You don't want to have a meandering attitude.
Meandering will get you there maybe eventually.
I've traveled a good bit with our team, with some of our staff here for different AFA events lately Tony oversees the security and operations, and so if you would humor me here and just go around some of the security team and just use the word meandering a couple bit, because I got to the point where I did it just to get their attention. When we were traveling,
Yeah,
I just wanted.
you want to go meander?
I got to the point where I was creating ways just to use the word.
Starts making them sweat.
Yes,
You want to meander.
Yeah,
No. We've got to go here and here.
Right.
Well, I mostly was talking about the obnoxiousness of me saying it, and I know it was getting annoying.
Joe Biden used to meander, right? His staffers try to catch a meandering.
They're gonna know you. They're gonna know either I put you up to that or I'm rubbing off on you. One of the two.
Hey, let me real quickly tell folks, and then we'll get to Steve's news story line up here. But we've got some tours lined up for the year 2026, and I know a lot of people make travel plans, 6, 8, 10 months out in advance. You have to get off work or whatever the case may be, make plans. We've got a list of tours that we're taking. We're going to go in June and September. We're taking a Christian Heritage Tour of Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and also Mount Vernon, George Washington's Mount Vernon. Then we're going also to Colonial Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown. So much history there, and you can see God's hand in our country. And we're going to eat good and laugh and have a wonderful time. So if you want to travel with Christians on some of these tours, those 2 tours are available. Also, Wesley and Walker are leading our another Boston area tour coming up in September.
Yep, that's right.
Right?
Yeah,
Yep. You already got registrations for that, by the way. I saw that today.
Mm-hmm. People already signed up. I mean, it filled up last.
3 months in advance.
Mm-hmm,
So, and then we've got Israel and Greece. Wesley and Walker are going to Greece, the footsteps of Paul. Allison, my wife, and I are going over to Israel again in March. I don't think we got but 10 seats left on that Israel trip.
Israel's got about 10 seats left. We've got about 15 or 20
on the Greece tour.
On the Greece tour, and the reason those 2 we need to stop there and emphasize those because the registration deadline is the 1st of December, I believe. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, or sooner, depending on if we get full.
That's true. Yeah.
So, if you want details about dates, the itinerary, what all's going to be happening, check it out. Here's the website for any of the tours that I just mentioned coming up in 2026. Go to wildmongroup.com. wildmongroup.com. wildmongroup.com, and everything you need to know is there.
And we look forward to the fellowship. A lot of ideas that we get for things that we do around the office come from sitting around, eating and fellowshipping with our listeners, our supporters. So, and it's more than one night too. So a lot of nights, a lot of days of being on a bus with.
Yeah, we've done the one night Israel tour, and it's just a lot to squeeze in. You know what I'm saying? People did complain.
Yeah, people in their pajamas everywhere.
They're in their pajamas. You hit the ground. You try to take in as much as you can, and only stay one night, but it just didn't work. It didn't work for us. I'm not saying it can't work for others.
You couldn't even watch a video in one night that would cover all that you cover.
We tried it.
And then the flip side of that, you tried Paul's journey, where you go by boat and foot everywhere. Also too long.
Yes, right. And people complaining, I didn't bring the right shoes for this 30-mile trek. And I'm going it's not miles over here. It's meters. You need to get your math right before you start complaining.
And then the on and off of the camel.
Right, on and off of the camel.
Or the donkey, whatever it was.
The detour to the island.
Whatever kind of biblical animal you can get on, you have to get off of it.
Yeah.
All right, Steve, what's your first story?
I just got to say, I have more than a feeling the Boston trip is going to be very good for you, though.
I know what you did there. Like Wesley probably does. Tony does because he had to grow up with it.
That's right.
All right. You guys,
classic 70s rock there brought to you by Steve Jordahl.
One of the best bands ever. All right, you guys.
Steve Amanda Jordahl.
Amanda?
Just look it up.
Okay.
Just look it up.
Amanda's a song by said group.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying.
See what they did there?
I will have to look it up.
Okay.
You might remember in the wake of the terrible October 7th terrorist attack in Israel that anti-Israel sentiment exploded on American college campuses, Columbia among others. and students started taking over buildings and harassing Jewish students, and some even went so far as to get disciplined by their schools, kicked out of college if they took over a building or did something that was against the rules, and the college decided to force it. Well, the group CARE, which is the Council on American and Islamic Relations, has decided to cut some of these children, babies, these anti-Semites checks. They're getting $1,000 checks, some of these are, to make up for the fact that they got kicked out, lost scholarships, lost job offers. So CARE is cutting $1,000 checks to some of the agitators who've been disciplined by colleges. Kind of reminds me of the Palestinian Authority Martyrs Fund. So I don't know, what do you all think about them getting rewarded for their anti-Semitism?
I think it should be illegal.
CARE?
Well, CARE giving money out to support.
Yeah, that does. That's an indictment against them as a so-called peaceful group.
Well,
you're paying money? You're paying money for people to act out on their anti-Semitism.
So they have a First Amendment right to say what they want to say if they want to speak out against. Obviously, violence is a whole nother issue. And CARE we all know who CARE is at this point, right? Matter of fact, I was just seeing Governor
people
Abbott,
listening don't know.
Well, Governor Abbott just designated them and the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist groups. So there you go. You can see where their allegiance lies. So if they giving money to these agitators or to these people got kicked out of campuses, I think that just tracks as to who they are.
The California chapter of CARE, which is kind of cutting most of these checks, raised $164,000 for this purpose, to support or to pay some of these college agitators.
A lot of these people are on the left who are rent-a-protester.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also a lot of them are at the same rallies. They say, one rally, they go to this rally, and then they go to it's a business. It's free enterprise. You have to rent a protester, and
there's actually a group called Rent a Crowd, I think it's called.
Rent a Crowd. I've used them.
Yeah.
Crowd.
Well, for one of our baseball games. You don't know this, do you, Wes?
I don't know this.
Yeah, I read
Keep going.
I rented some fans for your team.
Oh, I'm tracking. Okay, I didn't know where you're going with
make
that.
the crowd bigger than the other team.
Rent a crowd.
Paid them a little bit.
It's like just fill up the tours.
All right, next story,
That's right.
Steve.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. And this is good. I'm glad Tony's here to talk about this because
We're here too.
Researchers are talking about what they're calling hallucinations with ChatGPT or with chatbots. So a Deakin University study found that when they were talking about mental health literature, they tasked ChatGPT to write 6 literature reviews on mental health topics. They found that half of the references that ChatGPT gave them were made up. And they just were making stuff up. It's called hallucinations. They will give you the wrong answers. I looked this up. Chatbots, and this is where they say hallucinations come from. Tony, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Chatbots are often trained to provide an answer rather than admit uncertainty, and they are rewarded for generating plausible text, even if it's incorrect. Therefore, they are conditioned to fill the gaps with made-up information instead of admitting ignorance. This is a phenomenon known as hallucinations. Got to be careful when you're using chatbots, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they're trained by people, and now they've been trained for years, so I'm not going to take away from the hard work and the effort and the amazing technology that's gone into it. But they have been trained for years off of human interaction. So positive or negative reinforcement on an answer that's provided by the AI when asked a question, and then corrections that are given. But you're right. This doesn't surprise me because they are by default designed to give you an answer or at least somewhere close to an answer. It doesn't do any good. People are going to stop using an AI if the AI is like me when my wife asked me, did you do the dishes? I forgot, or I don't know. I mean, no one's going to use an AI that's just like, I don't know. That's a good question. People are going to stop using it. So it's trained to give an answer. And however, it doesn't take away from the fact that that's an awful high percentage, especially when it comes to topics like mental health. You have people going to an AI asking questions about their mental health and treatment options. Give me a diagnosis. That's not a subject you want to be hallucinating.
We're hearing a lot of advances in AI medicine. In other words, diagnosis, help with surgeries.
Yep.
That's another area that I would really if they're hallucinating, giving me a diagnosis or what medicine I need to take.
Yeah.
Who gets
to me?
blamed
That's the
here?
most. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to ask who gets blamed here if they get it wrong. Is it AI gets blamed? Who's held accountable?
Well, I don't know if there's been a legal test to this. I keep thinking in my mind, well, they're embarrassed if they don't know, and so they're going to make something up so they don't look bad. There's no emotion going on here, though, right, Tony?
No, there's no emotion. It's just it's a matter of the perception of quality of the product you're using, right? If something keeps coming back to you saying they don't know, to me, to your point, Steve, that would be the more concerning. I'm not so concerned about a student who's working on their PhD or their thesis going to ChatGPT and they get some wrong info, when they're writing a paper. That's not so much concerning to me. You're using it, as an information source. It could be wrong. What is more concerning to me is if we start looking to AI for medical diagnosis and even recommendations of treatment. You definitely don't want to get a misdiagnosis from an AI.
Let me ask you this: what types of queries for ChatGPT or from chatbots would you feel most comfortable doing? Is there a certain topic like data? Tell me the population of Cambodia or something like that. Probably get that right.
Oh yeah. Historical, geopolitical, political science, anything where there is solid, concrete documentation readily available that the AI can access. Those are all safe topics, in my opinion, and in my experience. Technology questions also. I've used it for troubleshooting multiple times. I tend to stay away from like medical or I would stay away from mental health recommendations.
Maybe
until the
social issues.
Well, yeah, all the questions I've asked them about my mental health, poor answers. But that's
engineering questions. How what kind of load does this bridge hold? I don't
want structural engineers asking ChatGPT when they're out in the field. How much weight can this?
Right.
I have another question, if I may, for on kind of a related topic.
I'll just wait. No, I'll just wait right here. No, I don't mean anything by that. I'm just saying. You asked me, you want to continue, and I'm just saying, yes, go right ahead, you and Tony.
I'd like to get your information on this too, Tim.
Oh, really? Okay.
Is there, what I'm having trouble with as a reporter now is telling fact from fiction when it comes to like some of these videos or some of these news stories that are sometimes made up. Is that video of President Trump throwing an ice cream cone at Joe Biden, is that made up AI or is it real? Is there any software that you guys know about that would be able to fact check a video or a legitimate claim, a journalistic claim?
You asked Tony that because I just believe everything.
Yeah.
Until I'm proven otherwise, I believe everything I see.
You assume the best in everybody.
There are sites out there that you can submit AI images or videos to that will check it. And
have you been running into this, Steve?
I think about it every day because I decide what news to cover. I decide how to cover it. I decide what to say based on what I'm finding. Mm-hmm. The internet is almost exclusively what we have to use these days. I mean, there was a time when I used to go actually look at phone books to find a number and then call a company to get a statistic. Mm-hmm. It's all online now, and if you can't trust it, then that makes my job difficult.
What if let me ask you this, because I use this, and I'm not sure what it is exactly, but I think everybody uses something nowadays if you have internet connection, especially on your cell phone. So I'm going to type in something and on Safari, because I have an iPhone. Well, no, it's Google. It's Google. Mm-hmm. Safari's not the
Safari's browser.
Okay. So Google's a search engine.
That's right.
So using Google as a search engine, if you type in a subject, then it's going to pop up with what is that information that pops up first?
The AI answer?
It's the AI generated
It's generated, and it's been in use for about 2 or 3 years now, maybe a little bit longer.
That's actually
much
probably
newer.
About
What you're talking about is much newer.
Much newer. Yeah, I'd say probably within a year.
The last
or two.
year? Okay, what is that called?
That's just their AI that they're using.
Okay, it's AI, though.
Yeah, it's
That's
AI.
what I wanted
yeah.
to know. What's Gemini? I mean,
Gemini is Google's AI.
Well, that's what I'm
And,
talking about.
Yeah.
I'm talking about if you type if I'm at Google right now and I type in, let's just say SEC football, okay, and it comes up, and well, it's got scheduled now. But anyway, on most topics, it'll come up with the basic information that you're looking for on said topic, right?
Right.
And that's pretty neutral most of the time. I mean, I've found
It
it.
is, and it'll usually contain links and references within the information.
But it's not politically driven, but you could.
It depends. I've come across, like, for example, if I'm trying to find out what a conservative news outlet or conservative perspective on a certain topic, if it's a political topic, it might not come up on my ChatGPT feed or the AI feed because it has been programmed to give me all of the liberal outlets first. And that you have to be kind of careful about that too.
Yeah, it's trained by people, and people are going to have inherent biases.
Okay, I just did, for example, what is a Maltese? Our dog is a Maltese. And it brings up all kind of good stuff in a matter of 2 seconds, 1 or 2 seconds.
It's compiling, the way I understand it, compiles a bunch of articles and information and summarizes it down. And then
How does it do it, though, in 1 second?
It's trained. There's a lot of computing power behind it, first of all, that takes your query. But it's trained on the internet, basically. And so a lot of that can be cached, too. So you're probably not the first person to ask, what is a Maltese? So, the answer may be cached to a degree, and that's why it's brought up so quickly. But there's a
lot of cash involved.
I think you should. I'd say use cash when possible.
Yes, that's right.
Here's another problem, I think, with it, too, though, is if you are, for example, the American Kennel Society, Kennel Club, whatever it's called, AKC, and you use advertising in your website to help raise money for the so when you go to akc.org, if that's what the website is, you see ads, and that's one of the ways that American Kennel Club gets money to help do their operations. Well, if it's being shown to me in ChatGPT, I never go to akc.org, and therefore I don't see the ads. And
same's true about KFC.
And yes, and AFA too, by the way.
We
don't advertise.
That is a common. That's a growing complaint amongst online e-commerce businesses, is that a lot of their traffic was generated off of paid advertisements or priority in the Google search results, and they're seeing reduced traffic because people aren't even using traditional Google, so to speak. They're going to AI and asking the questions.
All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. I'm Tim with Wesley, and Tony's with us, and Steve's with us. Steve Paisley Jordahl. Steve, you said allow 2 or 3 minutes at the end of the show. We're down to 4.
Okay, we can do that.
What do you want to do here?
Man, I tell you, if I was Shedeur Sanders had probably the worst day that any NFL quarterback could possibly have, and I'll tell you why. He came in the middle of a game for the Browns, playing for the Browns this week, and
this is Deion Sanders'
son,
one of his sons.
Well, the starting quarterback, Gabriel, was taken out with an injury, and he had to fill in and everything. So he had a bad NFL day.
Sanders did, the quarterback?
Yeah. Now, this is one of his first times on the field, so I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. Right. He might have a big upside, but it's a learning curve. He went 4 for 16 for 47 yards with 1 interception and a lost fumble and a quarterback rating of 13.5.
Which is not good.
Which is very bad. But you know what the kicker is?
What's the kicker?
When he was on the field, somebody went in and broke into his home because they knew he wouldn't be home and robbed him.
Oh man.
That's what you call insult to injury.
Isn't it?
Right there. Poor fella. They robbed his house while he's having the worst day of his life on the football field.
That's worst day of his football life.
So he's probably thinking to himself, I'm going to drive home and lick my wounds, and at least I can have my haven of my
Gonna turn on my TV.
Yeah.
You know,
Right,
watch.
and you get home and your TV isn't there.
That's right.
Huh?
Oh, man, that's awful.
Really unfortunate.
4
I
for
didn't know that.
16, 47 yards.
Yeah, you
no
already
touch-
said that.
1 interception, 2 sacks, too, by the way.
Well, and then the sad thing is his NFL salaries is not going to cover replacing some
Well,
of your,
he
some of your
was
stolen goods.
Shedeur Sanders, and maybe he'll end up making it, but he was the one in the NFL draft who was projected to go in the first round and then fell way, way down because a lot of teams didn't want to draft. I don't know if it's because they didn't want to draft. Well, he had come off as a prima donna, okay, that's unusual for NFL players, right? I mean, most of them are just full of humility and self-sacrifice.
Yeah, Dion's pretty muted every time I see him.
Yes, but so Shedeur, his name, he's going to have to make it. And last Sunday didn't help him.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Oh, you
so we'll
gotta
see what
start
happens
somewhere.
in his career. We wish him the best. He's a young guy.
Yeah,
23 years old.
Yeah,
first
Lot
year
of
in the
talent.
league. Lot of talent. We'll
Lot
see.
of talent.
That's bad. That's bad. But
Okay,
I've
having-
seen worse.
You know,
having your house robbed.
Well, that's bad too.
If you're going to have
his performance,
if you're going to have an awful start, though, you want it to be with the Browns because their expectations. I say this as a Browns fan. Their expectations are just on the floor to begin with. So
they are. I think the Cleveland Browns. I'm convinced of this. Built their stadium over Indian ground, area grounds. And so you just don't get past that.
It's their offensive name.
They're cursed.
Huh?
They're cursed.
Oh,
They're named after the original owner of the team, by the way.
yeah, not brownies. They're
No,
not
a guy named Brown
Yeah,
owned them and named the team after himself.
There's the music. It's a good thing. We're out of time.
I've seen quarterbacks that have thrown as many as 6 interceptions in a game. 6.
Yeah, but they were transferred to a mental home immediately after the game. They didn't go to hospital.
Could have been. Both are possible.
6 interceptions in a game.
I've seen it. Yeah.
That will break a man.
Yes, it would.
Huh?
But see, I don't know who to blame there, the coach or the quarterback. The coach kept putting him back in there.
ChatGPT, what's the most interceptions a quarterback has ever thrown in an NFL game?
It'd be 7.
It says it's searching. 8 by Jim Hardy on September 24th, 1950.
Yeah, and
Think about that.
Well, and the Hardy family had hoped that would never be brought up again.
Sorry about that.
Steve just brought it up again. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.